My cousin, who was wholeheartedly preparing for the art college entrance examination, suddenly got pregnant. She said that she became pregnant because she wore the underwear sold by my best friend. My aunt went to my best friend's store and made a big fuss. When I stepped forward to mediate, my aunt slapped me dozens of times instead and scolded me for being a cold-hearted snake, saying that I deliberately harmed my cousin when I saw that she was about to become a big star, and cursed that I would die a miserable death. I begged my cousin to tell the truth, but she sobbed and said that she had always regarded me as her own sister and didn't expect that I hated her so much in my heart. My best friend came out to protect me, but was stripped naked by my aunt and humiliated in the street. Later, this video was sent to the internet by someone with ulterior motives. My cousin became an internet celebrity with her pure appearance and pitiful situation and successfully entered the online drama industry. My best friend and I were cyberbullied and got depression and were ready to jump off the building together to commit suicide. But on the way to the rooftop, we were followed by a knife-wielding pervert. At the critical moment, I pushed my best friend away and died alone under the pervert's knife. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when my cousin begged me to take her to buy underwear. When accompanying the future big star to buy underwear is such an honorable thing. Cousin, are you sure you don't want to do it? Listening to Fang Min's slightly coquettish voice, my mind went into a brief standstill. But soon I reacted. I was reborn. In my previous life, Fang Min coaxed and coerced me to accompany her to buy underwear like this. She visited several stores along the way, but didn't like any styles. Finally, I took her to my best friend's store. But I didn't expect that not long after buying underwear in my best friend's store, Fang Min was found to be pregnant. She sobbed like a naive child, directly saying that something was wrong with her body after wearing the underwear I accompanied her to buy. And she didn't know anything else. My aunt naturally cast her suspicious eyes on my best friend's underwear store, while having people smash it up. She also started a live stream, crying to netizens that her daughter was pure and innocent, and got pregnant after wearing the underwear from my best friend's store, accusing all the underwear in my best friend's store of having problems. Maybe they were recycled for secondary sales after being sold to perverts for indescribable things in advance. When I got the news and rushed there, my best friend's store had already been in a mess, and my aunt was sitting on the underwear fragments all over the floor, vehemently scolding my best friend for being rich but heartless and making black-hearted money without fearing going to the tongue-pulling hell after death. I stepped forward to persuade my aunt. All the underwear in my best friend's store was sold after passing the inspection. I bought my underwear from her store and have been wearing it for 6 or 7 years without any problems. Moreover, even if we take a step back, even if there were really some sperm residues on the underwear, sperm can't survive in a dry environment for more than half an hour. And the journey from my best friend's store to home is more than half an hour. But my aunt was surprised that I was helping my best friend to quibble. She scolded me for being a cold-hearted snake, saying that I deliberately harmed my cousin when I saw that she was about to become a big star, and cursed that I would die a miserable death. She raised her hand and slapped me more than a dozen times. My best friend originally sympathized with my aunt's family for having such a big incident, and didn't really argue with my aunt. Only when she saw me being beat and did she rush up and try to stop her. But my aunt said that my best friend wanted to kill people, took the opportunity to grab my best friend's arm, and ordered several men who were with her to strip my best friend naked and scolded her. Since you like to serve men and please men so much, I'll help you today, and let you please them enough at once. My aunt became extremely popular and gained nearly 100,000 followers in just 1 hour. Even though my best friend's father later took action to suppress it, it only stopped the video from spreading openly. Privately, there were still countless people who had seen my best friend's naked body, and pointed at her and scolded her as a slut and a low-life when they saw her. My best friend and I were jokingly called the black-hearted sisters, and became like rats crossing the street, not daring to go out or walk on the street. But Fang Min became a little-known internet celebrity with the popularity created by my aunt for her, and successfully got the leading female roles in several online dramas. Later, we finally couldn't bear it, and were ready to commit suicide together. But on the way, we were followed by a knife-wielding pervert. At the moment when the pervert rushed over, I pushed my best friend away reflexively and walked towards the knife myself. The sharp pain of the blade stabbing into my heart still lingered in my chest, so that when I looked at my cousin's feigned innocent expression, there was not the slightest smile in my eyes, and even a faint hatred emerged. Fang Min sensed my resistance and mumbled in dissatisfaction. If you don't want to accompany me, then don't. Why are you so fierce? It makes it seem like I can't do without you. Fang Min's words actually reminded me instead. Calculating the time. She should not be pregnant yet at this time. If I tore my face in anger. What if she didn't come to this area anymore in the future, and broke up with her little lover? Thinking of this, I immediately softened my tone, and tried to look embarrassed. Sister didn't mean not to accompany you. It's mainly that the leader just called me and asked me to go back to work overtime temporarily. You know. Fang Min gave me a disdainful glance. Look at you. So spineless. All you know is to be a lackey for capitalists. I will definitely become a star and marry into a wealthy family in the future. I won't be as useless as you. I sneered in my heart. Yes. Yes. You are the most promising. I'm just afraid that in the end, you won't even be as good as a lackey for capitalists like me. But on the surface, I still pretended to be full of apology. I'm really sorry. Let your friend accompany you today. Next time, cousin will definitely accompany you. Fang Min snorted through her nose, picked up her small bag and twisted her waist and walked out of the door. And as soon as she walked out the front door, I quietly followed her right away. As soon as Fang Min walked out of the door, she made a phone call. Then, after a few minutes, a boy with yellow hair and a gold chain, looking slovenly, appeared. Fang Min waved her hands enthusiastically to greet him. Brother Tao. I'm here. I'm here. As soon as the yellow-haired boy saw Fang Min, he hooked her shoulder and pulled her into his arms with a sly smile. What? We've only been apart for less than an hour. Do you miss me so soon? Fang Min looked resentful. It's all that bitch Fang Yuan's fault. I asked her to go shopping for underwear with me, but she insisted that she had to work overtime. But fortunately she had to work overtime. Otherwise, how could I have an excuse to ask Brother Dao to come out? The yellow-haired man gave a sly and charming smile, and bent his head to bite Fang Min's lip. You little slut. Are you so lonely? Normally, being called a little slut should be considered an insult and would make one angry. But Fang Min didn't. Instead, she happily reached out and hooked the yellow-haired man's neck, and took the initiative to press her lips against his. Brother Tao, when will you take me to your company and make me a big star? Seeing them kissing passionately, I felt sick in my heart. I hurriedly saved the video I had just taken and called my best friend Tanke. I told her briefly to close her underwear store immediately, and it would be better not to open for business today. Tanke didn't understand why and asked me, but I hadn't figured out how to explain the matter of rebirth to her. I couldn't directly tell her that Fang Min was going to be bad for her underwear store. After holding it in for a long time, I didn't say anything. Tanke and I have been friends for 7 or 8 years. She knows that I never talk nonsense randomly. So, after being silent for a while, she agreed to my request to close the underwear store. Although I don't know why you must make me close the store today. As your best friend, I'm willing to believe you. Look, this is what a best friend is like. No matter when or what it is, she will believe you unconditionally and support you. Thinking of the previous life when I took Fang Min to her store to buy underwear, and then my aunt made a big scene at the entrance of her store, demanding that she pay 1 million yuan at once. She never suspected that I had instigated my aunt. Even in the end, in order to protect me, she sacrificed her innocence and her whole life. Suddenly, my nose felt sour. I'm sorry for you in the previous life. In this life, I will definitely protect you. For I followed that yellow-haired man, named Brother Tao and Fang Min. We wandered around many stores after turning left and right. But Fang Min was not satisfied. Finally, We still came to the street where my best friend's store was located. Seeing that my best friend's store had a sign of temporarily closed on it, Fang Min was furious and kicked the glass door several times, saying that she had taken a fancy to the underwear on the mannequin at first sight. And Fang Min's anger didn't subside until they found the same style of underwear in another store called Tianxianxian's E. I looked at the lucky store that was chosen, and quietly took pictures of their transaction and the storefront. I deeply sympathized with it in my heart. Seeing that Fang Min and the yellow-haired man were about to go back, I planned to get home before them. On the way, I received a call from Tank E, asking me to go to the coffee shop we often went to for a chat. Tank and I were college classmates. In freshman year, I was cheated on. Ashamed, I hid behind the teaching building and cried secretly. There I met Tank E, who was also hiding because she had been cheated on. We hit it off immediately and joined hands to teach the scumbag a lesson. We established a deep revolutionary friendship and became best friends. And as time went by, with just one look or one movement, we could guess what the other person wanted to say or do. When I arrived, Tank E was sitting at the window seat, with 2 cups of ordered coffee in front of her. Her fingers were tapping on the mobile phone in front of her from time to time. Seeing me, her eyes lit up instantly. She grabbed my arm and pushed me onto the chair, looking down at me pretending to be serious. Fang Yuan, according to reliable information, you have concealed important information from me. Quick. Be lenient when you confess, and severe when you resist. 5 Looking at Tank E in front of me, whose eyes were bright and full of vitality, and then thinking of Tank in the previous life, whose eyes were dull and listless. Tears suddenly gushed out uncontrollably. Tank E was frightened and hurriedly helped me wipe my tears. Hey, why are you so unable to take a joke? If you don't want to say it, then don't. I won't force you. Can't I just be a little curious? I put my arm around her waist and buried my head in her arms, saying with a sobbing voice, don't move. Woo woo woo. Let me hug you first. Woo woo woo. Tank E was so frightened and that she didn't know where to put her hands. After a while, she stroked my hair and said with a sobbing voice, all right. All right. I won't move. I'll let you hug me. Stop crying. Okay? If you keep crying, I'm going to cry too. After my emotions stabilized, I told Tank everything about the previous life in great detail, except for the fact that I had been stabbed to death in order to protect her. If misfortune is bound to come eventually, it's better for me to tell her than for the facts to tell her. Listening to my story, Tank E's expression became more and more serious. Her knuckles were cracking as she clenched them. Finally, she suddenly sprang up from her seat, causing the chair to make a harsh sound. Damn it. How could that little bitch be so vicious? I embarrassedly pulled her back to the chair and gestured an apology to the people around. She has some problems in her mind. The people around gave an understanding look and moved their eyes away from us. Just as I let out a sigh of relief, my neck was suddenly grabbed. Tank E said through gritted teeth, do you want to die? That day, Tank E saw the lucky store newly chosen by Fang Min in the photo I took. After hesitating for a few seconds, she made a heroic decision. Since she is targeting us, there is no reason for us to let others take the blame for us. What she owes us. Of course we should take it back from her in person. Tank E is a rich second generation, so she easily bought Tianxian Jarwas so, with her pocket money. She managed it for 3 months. It wasn't a long time, but it was enough to deal with the bad guys. After that, she used her little treasury again and went to her friends who made all kinds of luxury underwear to buy a lot. As long as it was expensive, regardless of whether it was beautiful or not, she took them all. It also included the unsaleable inventory of her old friends. By buying the goods, she also did a favor for her old friends. 6 When I got home, I saw my cousin and aunt at the door. My aunt was carrying a few bananas. When she saw me, she put on a big smile. Yuan Yuan is back. Working overtime so late. You must be very tired. thinking of the experiences in the previous life. I didn't give my aunt a good look. I opened the door expressionlessly and went in by myself. My aunt gave an embarrassed laugh and quickly followed me in. She sat on the sofa and peeled a banana for herself. Your cousin is about to take the college entrance examination soon. But she still has a long way to go in her academic courses. I'm here to discuss with you. I want you to take a few months off before the college entrance examination and give your cousin a good tutoring. In my previous life, my aunt also made such an unreasonable request to me. But at that time, my mother said that when she was a child, my uncle brought her up single-handedly. So I should be grateful and repay. I don't know which nerve in my head was wrong. I actually took a few months off, prepared lessons during the day, tutored her at night, and made nutritious meals for her in my spare time. But in this life, I won't be so stupid. I put my bag on the cabinet and pretended to rub my shoulders. I'm sorry, Aunt. There are so many things in the company recently. The boss won't approve my leave. Not approved? If not, then quit your job. Anyway, your job has no future. When your cousin becomes a big star in the future, let her find you a job with less work, more money and close to home. Isn't it much better than your lousy job now? I knew my aunt was shameless before, but I didn't expect she could be so shameless. Maybe the ridicule on my face was a little too obvious. Suddenly, my aunt threw the half-eaten banana hard on the coffee table. What kind of look is that? We won't take advantage of you. 50 yuan a day. Isn't it enough? I was almost laughed out of anger. I work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and my monthly salary is 10,000 yuan. How could she have the nerve to say that she won't take advantage of me by giving me 50 yuan a day? But on the surface, I didn't show it. Instead, I pretended to be open-minded and smiled at Fang Min. Min, do you want your cousin to quit her job and stay beside you every day to supervise your study? Didn't you study well at school on weekends before? In my previous life, I might have believed that Fang Min really studied seriously at school on weekends. But after seeing the yellow-haired guy, I knew very well in my heart that on weekends, Fang Min probably went on a date with the yellow-haired guy. Sure enough, just one sentence made Fang Min turn pale instantly. And my aunt even stood up directly from the sofa, her voice almost breaking. What did you say? Fang Min didn't come to you for tutoring on weekends? 7 Fang Min rushed out of the door, and my aunt chased her out with a broom. In the darkness, I heard the screams coming from afar and Fang Min's resentful curses. Fang Yuan, you will die a horrible death. When I become a big star, I will make your life a living hell. I calmly closed the door. I don't know if you can become a big star, but it seems that your living hell is coming soon. The next day, I got up very early on purpose, took a leave and rushed to Tianxianxian's. But I didn't expect that Tanka was earlier than me. She had already emptied Tianxianzi. At this moment, she was directing several tall and long-legged handsome guys to hang all kinds of luxury underwear in the store one by one. Only 30 square meters, but worth tens of millions. Obviously, this girl stepped up her purchases in the second half of the night again. I was dumbfounded and couldn't help giving her a thumbs up. It has to be you. You spent a fortune for revenge. But Tank patted her chest. We died miserably in our previous lives. Aren't our lives worth this little money? I still think this store is too small. Because Fang Min was neither at school nor at my home for tutoring on weekends. My aunt was furious and directly rented a house near the school, preparing to accompany Fang Min in her study. Fang Min was miserable. But under the tyranny of her mother, she could only pretend to submit. One day, I worked overtime until late at night. Passing by the house my aunt rented, I accidentally saw a young couple kissing passionately, with the typical yellow-haired and bright hairpins. It was none other than Fang Min and that yellow-haired guy. I looked at the dark window behind Fang Min and understood. I quietly took a photo and left. Soon, a month passed. That day, as soon as I got off work, I received Tank as continuous urgent calls. The central idea was very simple. The bomb exploded when I arrived. My aunt was sitting on the floor full of underwear fragments with disheveled hair, crying while holding her mobile phone. My daughter is pure and innocent. Usually, she would blush just by talking to a boy. She has never even touched a boy's clothes. But just because she wore the underwear from this black-hearted store, my daughter got pregnant. It must be that there is something wrong with the underwear in their store. Maybe it has been worn by a pervert long ago, and then sold to us second-hand, making 2 waves of black-hearted money. Dare to make this kind of unconscionable money. Aren't they afraid of being punished? My aunt was crying with snot and tears, and Fang Min cowered in the corner, her face full of tears, her hair in a mess just right, looking pitiful. It was only after living a second life that I suddenly realized how much my aunt and Fang Min were acting. Perhaps, from the moment they found out that Fang Min was pregnant, they had planned to use this opportunity to ride on the rocket of traffic. Tank pretended to tremble and hide in the corner. But in fact, her eyes were twinkling with sly light. At soon, a group of big brothers with broad shoulders, narrow waists, and muscular bodies walked in. A few of them entered the store to clear the scene and count the losses. There was also a man who looked like the leader squatted in front of my aunt politely and patiently explained to her, "Auntie, when you speak, you should base it on evidence. If you spread rumors and slander the store without any evidence like this, they can sue you for slander. Moreover, you have to compensate for all the losses in the store." My aunt looked at him warily. "Who are you? Why are you speaking for that unscrupulous merchant? I see. You are in cahoots with them, right? Everyone, come and have a look." The unscrupulous merchant dares to do it but not admit it, and even finds the underworld to try to shut my old woman's mouth. The big brother couldn't bear the false accusation for no reason, so he simply turned off my aunt's Listerine and stuffed a towel into my aunt's mouth. "Since you say that I'm shutting your mouth, well, then I'll just do it a little bit." Soon, the losses in the store were counted. Almost all of the luxury underwear inside was damaged. Tanka couldn't wait to jump out with the card reader. A total of 9,990,000 yuan. "Cash or card, please?" "Pa. Such a large amount of money can't be paid in cash for sure. So you pay by card, right? Have you brought your card?" Auntie's eyes bulged like dead fish eyes, and she used all her strength to pull the towel out of her mouth. "Are you robbing? Such a small shabby room of lingerie. And you dare to ask for over 9 million? And my daughter got pregnant after wearing the lingerie in your store. If anyone should pay compensation, it should be you paying me. Believe it or not, I'll sue you." Tank lapped her hands. "Well said. Well said. Without further ado, let me call the police for you." 9. As soon as they arrived at the police station, Tank immediately became a drama queen, holding the invoice and crying pitifully. "Uncle policeman, you have to uphold justice for me. I spent all my savings and finally managed to take over such a store, relying on it to make a living. As a result, before I could sell a single item, this old lady brought people and real and everything. Look, this is my purchase invoice." At first, the police officers didn't take this small lingerie store too seriously. But the moment they saw the invoice, the young police officer immediately looked strange and took the original invoice away. Half an hour later, the young police officer came back, followed by an entire special investigation team. The moment she saw the special investigation team, Auntie immediately lay on the ground, started throwing tantrums, begging the police to uphold justice for Fang Min and severely punish the black-hearted merchant. Tanka, on the other hand, calmly took out her mobile phone and started playing a video. In the video, it was Fang Min and a yellow-haired guy. When they met, they first kissed passionately like dry firewood and raging fire. And then Fang Min leaned softly on the yellow-haired guy, with a shy and timid look in her eyes. "Brother Tao, I really like you so much. I want to have a baby for you." The yellow-haired guy gently flicked Fang Min's nose. Silly girl. Can you have a baby just because you want to? It all depends on fate. You know? The video ended abruptly, but anyone with a discerning eye could tell how Fang Min got pregnant. Tanka pretended to be magnanimous and stepped forward. Although the video proves that Fang Min has a boyfriend, the baby in her belly may not be her boyfriend's either. So, for the sake of fairness, I propose to do a paternity test for the baby in Fang Min's belly and her boyfriend, as long as it is confirmed that the baby is not Fang Min's boyfriend's. No matter whose it is, I am willing to compensate for the harm Fang Min has suffered. Fang Min huddled in the corner, shivering, not daring to look Tanka in the eyes at all. Auntie, who had lived for decades, knew the situation clearly. Immediately, she slapped Fang Min hard on the face. How could I give birth to such a shameless thing like you? Doing such immoral and shameful things. Why don't you just die? The police stepped forward to block her. This is the police station. Please pay attention to your behavior. Seeing that the attention was about to shift, Tanka hurriedly brought the topic back. Now that the rumor about the lingerie being defective has been refuted, let's talk about the losses in the store. It's a total of 9,999,000. Which card would you like to use to pay? By the way, I don't accept installment payments here. 10. Auntie knelt down in front of Tanka with a thud. Girl. Auntie didn't mean it. Auntie was deceived by this unfilial daughter. 9,999,000. Even if you sell Auntie's parts separately, you can't make up that amount. Why don't you be magnanimous and forgive Auntie this time? Sure. Tank agreed very simply. As long as you and your daughter each slapped yourselves 100 times in front of everyone. Auntie's face flushed red, showing clear embarrassment. She looked at Fang Min, who was motionless and in a trance, and slapped her. Are you deaf? Can't you hear me telling you to slap yourself? Fang Min was still in a daze. Tank kindly added. It doesn't have to be her slapping herself. It's the same if you do it for her. Auntie angrily kicked her, and then started slapping herself. After 100 slaps, Auntie's face was already swollen like a pig's head, with blood oozing from the corner of her mouth and her eyes so swollen that she could hardly see. She tried hard to open her eyes and walked towards Fang Min. Fang Min suddenly came to her senses and jumped back warily, protecting her belly. You can't hit me. Do you know whose son I'm carrying? The one in my belly is the hope of our Fang family. Perhaps the expression on Fang Min's face was too sincere. Auntie was stunned and asked blankly. Whose? Fang Min sneered. Do you know the Wang family? The richest family in the city? My boyfriend is the only heir of the Wang family. Auntie was still in a daze. How are you sure? Fang Min was full of pride. He said it himself. And he showed me a photo of him and his father. Look. It's the photo of him and the chairman of the Wang group. I was originally worried that the difference in family backgrounds between the two families was too great and his parents wouldn't agree. Now it's all right. I'm already pregnant with their golden grandson. For the sake of the grandson, they won't keep me out of the door. The Wang family was indeed the richest family in Jing City, and for the protection of their children and grandchildren, except for the chairman who had to show up, no other members of the Wang family had ever appeared in public. So when Fang Min said this, even the police officers showed some thought-provoking looks. But only I, who was cyber-bullied in my previous life and investigated Fang Min, knew that her so-called rich second-generation boyfriend, the only son of the richest Wang family, was just a fake made by photoshopping and deception, used to deceive fools like Fang Min who tried to get something for nothing through sexual value. But Auntie didn't know. So she believed it. She repeatedly wiped her hands clean on her clothes, and stretched out her hand affectionately towards Fang Min. Min, be good. Come here and let Mom see if you're hurt anywhere. 77. Seeing that the plot was about to develop into a family affection drama, Tanka couldn't bear it any longer. Hey, I wonder if you've had enough of your dawdling? My patience has been completely worn out by you. Forget it. You don't need to fight anymore. Just pay back the money quickly. Anti-straight and her back again. Didn't you hear what my daughter said? My future son-in-law is from the Wang family. The richest family. Don't mention over 9 million. Even if it's over 90 million. It's just a piece of cake for them. My best friend picked her ears. Who can't brag? If you have the ability, take out the money. Anti immediately asked Fang Min to call her boyfriend and send the money over. Fang Min looked embarrassed. Mom, after all, I haven't married into the family yet. If I ask for money now, they will probably think that I'm a gold digger or a fortune hunter. Maybe they will dump me. You don't want to ruin your daughter's lifelong happiness. Do you? Auntie was stunned. Auntie resigned herself to fate. Auntie exhorted. Min, it wasn't easy for me to bring you up. I'll take the blame for you first. When you marry into the Wang family in the future, don't forget to get me out. Fang Min also shed tears on the spot. Mom, I'll remember all the kindness you've shown me. Don't worry. As soon as I have the money, I'll get you out right away. Obviously, over 9 million was such a large amount that Auntie directly gave up the idea of borrowing money to avoid disaster, and went straight to prison. Because she knew that even if she put aside her pride and borrowed from all her relatives, she still couldn't raise enough money. She could only pin her hopes on her richest son-in-law. Otherwise, even if she got out of prison in the future, she wouldn't be able to repay the huge debt of over 9 million. And Fang Min also naturally abandoned her mother who gave birth to her and raised her. Because in her eyes, her mother's reputation and freedom were far less important than her own future. Out of the police station gate, Tank and I looked at each other, high-fived each other, and laughed heartily. And Fang Min looked at us hatefully. Don't be too happy too soon. I won't let you off. Tank and I looked at each other again and saw two words in each other's eyes. Psycho. A young girl who just turned 18 and got pregnant before marriage. And a little yellow-haired guy who cheats by photoshopping pictures. I'm really curious. How do you plan to not let us off? Oh, by the way, that little yellow-haired guy may not be willing to help you deal with us. Nya after getting through the biggest crisis known in the previous life. The lives of Tank and I returned to normal. As for Fang Min, her aunt's imprisonment hit her hard. She directly dropped out of school and was ready to wholeheartedly plan to marry into a wealthy family. I saw her post her plan to marry into a wealthy family in our family group. She planned to hide the news of her pregnancy from the yellow-haired guy first. Using the few months before her pregnancy showed, she would firmly grasp the yellow-haired guy's heart. When her pregnancy showed, she would run away with the baby without a word. When the yellow-haired guy was in great pain because of losing his love and was in a drunken stupor all day long, she would then bring the baby to save him from the abyss. From then on, the three of them would live happily together forever. Well, if you haven't read hundreds of overbearing CEO stories, you can't come up with such brain-dead plots. Tank and I were not interested in the process of capturing a man's heart. We were only interested in Fang Min's life after her pregnancy showed. First, she sent dozens of messages in the group from the yellow-haired guy asking where on earth she was every day, as well as countless missed calls, and told the family members that she had decided to carry out the disappearing plan. After that, she live-streamed in the group every day the yellow-haired guy's messages of concern about her whereabouts and his repentant short essays. However, as she live-streamed, the yellow-haired guy's messages became shorter and fewer until finally, there were none. At the beginning, people in the group would give her more or less sincere comfort. But as time passed, everyone gradually forgot about it. But although everyone forgot, Fang Min didn't. She racked her brains and finally on the fourth day, sent a message with a completely different tone. It was a screenshot of a 100 yuan transfer, saying that because her boyfriend couldn't contact her and was afraid that she had no money to spend, he specially transferred money to her bank card and let her spend it as she liked. The long-lost congratulations sounded in the group again. Fang Min's vanity was greatly satisfied, and she was once again convinced of the correctness of the path she had chosen. After that, She began her daily show of love career in the group. One moment she showed a transfer of tens of thousands of yuan in the group, complaining that her boyfriend, the heir to the richest family, was stupid and didn't know how to buy gifts. He only transferred money to her and let her buy things herself, which was so tiring. One moment she sent a screenshot of a big meal in the group, complaining that her boyfriend took her to have a big meal again, completely ignoring her hard work to keep in shape. One moment she sent a photo of a scenic area, saying that her boyfriend was afraid that she and the baby would be bored, so he had to take them to breathe the fresh air in the mountains. Nowadays, many actors in TV dramas don't act as well as she does. Every time Fang Min sent these, a pile of sincere or insincere congratulations and envious voices would emerge in the group, and Fang Min was even more energetic. After work every day, Tank and I also had an extra entertainment activity discussing whether what Fang Min wore today was genuine or fake, whether what she ate was real food or a stolen online picture, and which unknown small mountain village was in the photo, and whether she had actually been there or not. Although there were many fakes and many stolen online pictures, occasionally, there would be a few genuine items and a few bites of real food. The quantity was not large, but for Fang Min, who had no source of income at all, it was already far beyond her ability to pay. Where did her money come from? Tank and I could guess it with our toes. So, every time we saw her grit her teeth to buy herself clothes and supplement nutrition for the baby, Tank and I would happily eat 2 more bowls of rice. Soon, Fang Min gave birth. Soon, Fang Min was going to hold a full moon banquet for the baby. Hearing that Fang Min would live stream the whole process, Tank and I specially cancelled our plane tickets and took a day off, preparing to watch the whole process. At the full moon banquet, Fang Min projected her mobile phone screen onto the big screen, started a live stream, and revealed the identity of the baby's father. Then, full of confidence, she sent a message to Huang Mao. "Are you there?" 5 minutes passed, and there was dead silence. Fang Min didn't give up and sent another message. This time it was a photo of her holding the baby. It could be seen that she was dressed up carefully. The baby was very cute, and she was very beautiful. "This is my baby with you. Isn't it cute?" This time, Fang Min patiently waited for 10 minutes. But still, there was dead silence. Fang Min's face began to twitch a little, and the atmosphere at the scene was eerily silent. A netizen in the live stream suggested, "Maybe he's busy and doesn't have his phone with him? Why don't you try calling?" Fang Min seemed to have grasped the life-saving straw and picked up her phone with a big smile. "Yes. Yes. Yes. How could Brother Tao ignore me? He must be busy and didn't see the message. I'll call him right away." The phone rang more than a dozen times and was hung up. Fang Min didn't give up and called again. This time, the phone rang 3 times and was hung up. Fang Min's face turned pale. She trembling dialed the number again. This time, the phone was finally answered. Fang Min's excited voice was tinged with sobs. "Brother Tao, you finally answered the phone. I miss you so much." The person on the other end didn't miss her at all. The man's angry voice came through the receiver. "Are you fucking done? If you send this kind of messy information again and make my girlfriend misunderstand, I'll fucking kill you." Fang Min's face was as white as a sheet, and the phone slipped from her hand. The netizens in the live stream went crazy, and the bullet screen scrolled quickly. Wow. 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 A real-life version of Rich Family Grudges. So exciting. I'm new here and don't quite understand. May I ask, is this a case of running away with the baby and then being replaced? The heir of the richest Wang family is a heartbreaker. There were even some netizens who liked to watch the fun and were eager to stir up more trouble. They enthusiastically the person involved. When we saw the real heir of the Wang family being Tank and I were really a little nervous. We were afraid that the Wang family would step in and this drama would end before it even started. Fortunately, the Wang family only posted a picture. It was a dog barking at a lion, with the caption, "Daddy, look at me." And the lion glanced at it disaffectedly. with the caption "Bah. I don't even have an appetite to eat it." Regarding this, Tank and I just wanted to say one word. Well done. In the eyes of Tank and me, the Wang family had already distanced themselves from this matter. But in Fang Min's and some netizens' eyes, not denying was the same as admitting. So the netizens began to give advice again. After all, in those domineering CEO stories and novels, running away with the baby is just a plot for fun. Bringing it into reality is really a bit too much. The domineering CEO is waiting for Fang Min to come and apologize with a willow branch on her back. Fang Min had a very strong self-reflection ability, and even stronger action ability. So she immediately booked a train ticket back to Jing City and rushed back that day under the urging and encouragement of netizens. At the railway station, Fang Min sincerely asked netizens about Huang Mao's whereabouts. However, the netizens' answers were all kinds of different, and Fang Min couldn't make a decision for a long time. When she looked up in distress, she saw that familiar figure at a glance. Huang Mao was walking quickly towards Fang Min with a bouquet of roses in his hand. Fang Min excitedly went to meet him. But then Huang Mao dodged her and knelt down in front of the girl standing behind her. "Darling, I really don't know that crazy woman. Maybe it's because I just changed my mobile phone number." That crazy woman was the girlfriend of the previous owner of my mobile phone number. Crazy woman? Crazy woman? Crazy woman? Fang Min looked at Huang Mao and repeated these words in disbelief. Suddenly, she exploded and rushed forward. She kicked the roses in Huang Mao's hand away and slapped the girl opposite Huang Mao in the face, roaring at her heartbrokenly. "You cheap woman! Why are you seducing someone else's husband? I've even given birth to a child for him. How dare you still snatch him from me?" The girl covered her face and stared blankly. She raised her hand high to slap Fang Min back. But when her eyes caught sight of the baby crying hysterically in Fang Min's arms, she finally dropped her hand and said one sentence. "Wang Tao, you really make me sick." After that, she turned around and quickly entered the security checkpoint. Huang Mao also came to his senses from the shock. He wanted to rush into the security checkpoint but was stopped by the staff. Frustrated, he turned around and slapped Fang Min in the face. "Bitch. Look at the good you've done. Why did you come back? Why don't you just die outside?" Fang Min stared blankly at Huang Mao, her face full of disbelief. "Brother Tao. It's me. I'm Min Min." Huang Mao spat on the ground. "I'm hitting you. This bitch. Don't let me see you again in the future, or I'll beat you every time I see you." Fang Min bit her lip a grieved lie until blood beads appeared. She raised the baby in her hand and handed it to Huang Mao. "Brother Tao. Look. This is the baby I gave birth to for you. Look how much he looks like you." Huang Mao raised his leg and wanted to kick the baby away. Fang Min screamed and quickly turned the baby away. Huang Mao's foot solidly kicked Fang Min in the waist. Fang Min lost her balance and fell to the ground. At this point, some netizens finally started to use their brains. "I say, sister, this man is a domestic abuser. Even if he is the heir of the Wang family, you can't have him. Don't you see it yet? This man's behavior and temperament don't look like a rich family heir at all. Maybe he's a fake?" But Fang Min was only thinking about chasing after Huang Mao, who was turning around to leave. She didn't care about the pain on her body, or the crying baby, and didn't even have time to look at her phone. All the way, when the yellow-haired man walked, Fang Min walked. When the yellow-haired man ran, Fang Min ran. When the yellow-haired man took a taxi, Fang Min also took a taxi to follow. In the end, the yellow-haired man still couldn't shake off Fang Min. Fang Min followed the yellow-haired man to a dark and cramped basement. The only furniture there was a bed and a table. And on the table was an induction cooker and a pot. The yellow-haired man sneered. "I didn't expect that I'm so charming. You are still so obsessed with me. Well, if you want to follow, just follow. Anyway, I'll make it clear first. I'm not that damn young Master Wang at all. Go. Mop the floor and make dinner by the way. I'm almost starving to death." Fang Min stood at the door for a long time and was unwilling to go in. with a sobbing voice. Brother Tao, did you bring me here to humiliate me? Do you hate me so much for leaving without saying goodbye back then? The yellow-haired man was too lazy to even lift his eyelids, and just lay down on the bed directly. Stay if you like. Or leave if you don't. Nobody is begging you to stay. Feng Min bit her lip tightly and picked up her mobile phone to look at the barrage. Some netizens in the barrage gave advice. Any clear-eyed person can see that young Master Wang is testing people. It's really not easy to be the young mistress of a rich family. Sister, you're almost there. Don't give up at this time. Feng Min gritted her teeth, put the child at the corner of the bed and began to mop the floor. The child was still young, separated from her mother's arms and in a strange environment. She immediately began to cry loudly. But until the child's little face turned red from crying, and her voice became hoarse from crying, the yellow-haired man didn't even look at her once. Feng Min had no choice but to hold the child with one hand and do the housework with the other. 16 Finally, Feng Min and the yellow-haired man truly integrated into each other's lives in a real sense. Only in this life. The yellow-haired man went out at dawn every day, played mahjong all day, and came home drunk after dark. At the beginning, Feng Min still held the child and followed him from a distance. But every time the yellow-haired man found out, he would beat her up and drag her home. After many times, Feng Min didn't dare to follow anymore. And the netizens who initially wanted to see the real-life version of the overbearing president's love gradually lost their patience in the daily scolding, beating and screaming of Feng Min and the yellow-haired man. Slowly, the number of people in Feng Min's lead stream room changed from several thousand to several hundred, then 2 dozens, and finally 2 only to people. Well, those 2 people are me and Tanke. After several months, Feng Min, who had a slightly plump figure after giving birth, had already become extremely thin. The whole person was like a dog-tail grass and could be broken in the middle by a gust of wind. Sometimes Feng Min would ask me and Tanka with tears in her eyes whether her current persistence was meaningful and whether she was wrong from the very beginning. Tanka and I shook our heads like rattles, giving her a lot of motivational talk and painting a beautiful blueprint to nip her doubts in the bud. Finally, one day, Feng Min was sitting on a chair wiping her tears. The child was lying on the bed tied up tightly and crying loudly. And the room was so dark that people's faces could hardly be seen clearly. The yellow-haired man had just played mahjong all day. He was tired and hungry, full of alcohol, walking unsteadily, and asked Feng Min with a thick tongue whether the meal was ready, saying that he was starving to death. Feng Min was immersed in her own world and ignored him. The yellow-haired man got angry and ticked over Feng Min and her chair. Feng Min got up from the ground and suddenly began to cry and laugh like a madman. Her thin body burst out with great energy and managed to subdue the yellow-haired man who was over 1.7 meters tall and tied him to the chair. Feng Min patted the yellow-haired man's face with a knife while crying. Brother Tao, I love you. I really love you. But why are you treating me like this? How long are you going to keep testing me? The yellow-haired man was scared sober. But he had no chance to break free. He looked at Feng Min with a face full of horror. And his voice was visibly trembling. Min, don't be impulsive. I told the truth on the first day you came. I said and not young Master Wang. But you just didn't believe it. 17 Feng Min was crying so hard that her face was covered with her hair, and she looked as hideous as a devil from hell. She pressed the yellow-haired man's hand on the tabletop, and her voice was extremely painful. Brother Tao, I beg you to tell the truth. Okay? I'll count to 3. If you don't tell the truth again, I'll cut off this finger of yours. 3, 2. The yellow-haired man was so scared that he peed his pants. I'm really not the young master of the Wang group. What do you want me to say? The knife fell. Blood splashed. And the yellow-haired man's scream almost shattered my eardrums through the screen. Feng Min forcibly broke the yellow-haired man's second finger and pressed it on the table. Brother Tao, I'll give you another chance. Think it over before you speak this time. Okay? The yellow-haired man cried. and his voice was full of hesitation and fear. Lady, what on earth do you want me to say? The knife fell again, and the yellow-haired man fainted from the pain directly. Fang Min seemed not to notice at all. She broke out the yellow-haired man's third finger and muttered to herself. Brother Tao, I'll give you another chance. You must think it over and then speak this time. Okay? If you still can't give the answer I want this time, you might as well die. I couldn't bear it any longer and made an anonymous call to the local police station. When the police arrived, the yellow-haired man was lying in a pool of blood. Fang Min was kneeling on the ground blankly, her eyes empty, and she didn't even react when the police took her away. And the child on the bed. His little face had begun to turn blue-purple, and he could only groan painfully without being able to cry out. 18 Fang Min should have been sentenced to death for intentional cruel killing with extremely bad circumstances. But she had mental problems, and was finally sent to a mental hospital. As for Fang Min and the yellow-haired man's child, none of the family members were willing to take care of him on their behalf. And finally he could only be sent to the welfare home. On the day Fang Min was sent to the mental hospital, I deliberately took several high-definition and uncensored photos of her. I printed them out and went to the prison to visit my aunt. When my aunt saw the photos, she broke down. She desperately hit the railing, trying to rush out and hit me. And she roared at me desperately. It's you who deliberately harmed me and Min Min, right? I clearly remember that it shouldn't be like this. Min Min would become an internet celebrity, and would shoot web dramas. While you and your capitalist best friend would be cyber-bullied. And you would be stabbed to death by a pervert. What on earth did you do? Why has it become like this? I frowned slightly and quickly realized that my aunt should have regained her memories of her past life. But so what? The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. In this life, after all, they have lost. I leaned closer to the railing and said in a voice that only my aunt and I could hear. Have you heard that good and evil will always be rewarded and cause and effect have a cycle? God sent me back to take your life. My aunt retreated in horror and staggered and fell to the ground. After coming out of the prison, I went to the welfare home again, and left 50 yuan. Whether in the past life or this life. Children are innocent. I'm sorry. But I have no other choice. I hope that in her next life, she can be more discerning and be born into a good family. When I got home, Tanka was sitting on my bed, with tears all over her face and her hair all over her face. She looked very pitiful. Seeing me, she suddenly rushed over and hugged my waist tightly, burying her head in my neck. Yuan, I just had a very, very terrible dream. I dreamed that after we were framed in our past life, you were stabbed to death in order to save me, leaving me alone to kneel and run all over the temples in the city, begging all the gods and Buddhas in the city. And then I used my own life to exchange for a chance for you to be reborn. Did you lie to me before? Were you really killed in your past life? My body stiffened. What day was it today? Why did everyone regain their memories of their past lives? I gently rubbed Tanka's hair. Silly girl. That dream of yours was false. You have to believe me, the one who experienced it. Then swear. If you lie to me, you will? Forget it. I believe you anyway. Tanka hugged me tightly, and I hugged her even tighter. In the past life, it was I who harmed her. In this life, we have finally overcome the difficulties together. In the future, we will surely cherish life, love life, and live out what we didn't live enough in the past life together.